It's Tuesday, May the 20th.
This is The Warning.
Each day, there is a cascade of growing threats aimed by Donald Trump at the American people, at the opposition, against anybody who dares to oppose him, against anybody who says, no, enough, stop. Your administration is lawless, arrogant, out of control, and incompetent, filled with derelicts, filled with sociopaths, and that you are failing fundamentally as president to keep the country safe, to maintain prosperity, and instead have assaulted the people by assaulting their government with the lawless ambitions of a dime store Mussolini.
In my home, the America I love, the America I've written about, that has been a beacon of hope and liberty for 250 years, is currently in the hands of a corrupt, incompetent, and treasonous administration. Tonight, we ask all who believe in democracy and the best of our American experience to rise with us, raise your voices against authoritarianism, and let freedom ring.
Donald Trump, each day, is the ringmaster for a circus where the media in the country are his supplicants, his stooges, his extras, his indispensable partners, in a play of nonsense that streams continuously to every village in the world. It is an incredible achievement, and one that should never be taken away from the Donalds, who rose from the detritus of page 6 on the shoulders of an imagined publicist to being the orchestra of the greatest propaganda show since Joseph Goebbels put one on in 1930s and 1940s Germany. It is ludicrous, it is tedious, but Donald Trump has gotten it all to snap together perfectly. A maestro of rot, a maestro of decay. And he has played the media like a Stradivarius. And the toxic tune that it has meted out for all the world to hear has brought with it the price that is now coming due. The demagogue the founders warned about has risen. He's here. And he is utterly, absolutely, completely incoherent.
You want to respond to President Biden being diagnosed with cancer? Are you going to call your predecessor?
I think it's very sad, actually. I'm surprised that it wasn't, the public wasn't notified a long time ago, because to get to stage 9, that's a long time. I just had my physical. You saw that. You saw the results of that particular test. I think that test is standard to pretty much anybody getting a physical, good physical. We had the doctors at the White House and over at Walter Reed, which is a fantastic hospital, do it. I did a very complete physical, including cognitive tests. I'm proud to announce I aced it. Got them all. I got them all right. You proud of me? Yes. Your husband would be proud of me for getting them all right. It's a little risk. If I didn't get them all right, these people would be after me. It would be not a good situation. But I think, frankly, anybody running for president should take a cognitive test.
It is extraordinary to watch Republicans and MAGA propagandists talk about the fitness of Joseph Biden. It's incredible to watch the apologists for daily insanities that have no rival in the history of the country demand explanations about the last president, when this president is a clear and present danger and more incoherent more times on a daily basis than the worst instances of incoherence that were ever seen by President Biden. And these two things do not contradict one another.
Speaking of Joe Biden, sir, do you have any thoughts on his diagnosis?
Yeah, look, I mean, first of all, of course, we wish the best for the former president's health. And, it sounds pretty serious, but hopefully he makes the right recovery. Look, I will say, whether the right time to have this conversation is now or at some point in the future, we really do need to be honest about whether the former president was capable of doing the job. And that's no that you can separate the desire for him to have the right health outcome with the recognition that whether it was doctors or whether there were staffers around the former president, I don't think he was able to do a good job for the American people. And that's not politics. That's not because I disagreed with him on policy. That's because I don't think that he was in good enough health. In some ways, I blame him less than I blame the people around him. And why didn't the American people have a better sense of his health picture? Why didn't the American people have more accurate information about what he was actually dealing with? This is serious stuff. And this is the guy who carries around the nuclear football for the world's largest nuclear arsenal. This is not child's play, and we can pray for good health, but also recognize that if you're not in good enough health to do the job, you shouldn't be doing the job.
What we are seeing is another example of moral fecklessness on the part of Democrats who cannot throw a punch and cannot make an attack when the chin is perfectly put forward to land a punch upon. The MAGA chin, in this case, is defending this.
And it takes a long time to get to that situation. Now, I think, to get to a stage 9, I think that if you take a look, it's the same doctor that said that Joe was cognitively fine. There was nothing wrong with him. Well, he said, if it's the same doctor, he said there was nothing wrong there, and that's being proven to be a sad situation. And the auto pen is becoming a very big deal. The auto pen is becoming a big deal because it seems like that maybe was the president who ever operated the auto pen.
And this.
It's interesting, though, the timing of them releasing the cancer, right? I said this while we were talking kind of tongue-in-cheek a while ago, but it seems like since her tapes were released, they were like, hey, wait, maybe a good time to distract the American people and talk about his cancer, because we know that cancer's been there for a while. And then when you start talking about the tapes themselves, I think as a special counsel, he went as far as he could. But then you had the left media that was completely covering it up, and
they attacked Robert Hur.
Of course they did. But you start looking at even Jake Tapper, and who has now wrote a book on this. He wrote a book pretty quick, so that means that they knew this was being covered up for quite some time.
This idiocy, this stupidity, this venal display, and this abject incoherence. And so, if we want to talk about a president who's in failing mental health, an untreated psychiatric patient, if we want to learn the lesson from a cover-up, if we want to take heed from warnings gleaned from the time the national media looked away when it should have looked closely, then it would be an excellent hour to apply them in the coverage of Donald Trump, who is insane by any conventional standard. Any plain reading of the nonsensical connections of thoughts and words that are the musings of an imbecile, an untreated psychiatric patient, a dangerous man in dangerous days. This is The Warning.
I'm Steve Schmidt. This is The Warning. I invite you to join this community where I promise to be honest, blunt, and direct about what is happening in this country. America is in crisis. Follow and subscribe to this channel and on Substack. Thank you.